Today on the Daily Charge, Black Hat and DEFCON, AT&T's 5G, and breaking down the Note 10.
Good morning and welcome to CNET's Daily Charge. It's Monday, August 6th. I'm Roger Chang.
And I'm Jessica Dalcourt.
Let's take a look at today's headlines. While most of us are going to be focused on Samsung this week, there are two big cybersecurity conferences going on right now, Black Hat and DEFCON. Our own Alfred Ng is on his way to Las Vegas to hang out with the hacker community, but he's left us with a little tip sheet on what to pack for such an event. But ultimately, this is just advice for anyone. He notes having an updated iPhone is actually your best option for an event, really to keep things secure. Also, turn off your Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. And generally, that's good advice, right?
Yeah, I mean, I hotspot this thing everywhere. You do have to pay more. I think it's worth it. Just peace of mind.
Yeah, public Wi-Fi. I mean, we've talked about for a long time the dangers of public Wi-Fi, even like a Starbucks Wi-Fi network. But folks still can't live without that stuff. I admit, I'm sometimes guilty.
Wi-Fi, library Wi-Fi, wherever you are. I mean, it's definitely convenient. You want to hop on, but I just sort of think, it's better to be self-contained. And yeah, I think it's worth it.
Yep. Well, the other advice he offers in terms of a notebook, having a Chromebook is your best bet in terms of it being private and secure. One other bit of news we'll be on the lookout for is a Forbes report that has Apple handing out a special secret version of its iPhone for hackers later this week. The idea is that the security experts will be able to dig around for potential vulnerabilities as part of a rumored new bug bounty program. That was a lot of
say that 10 times fast.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting take, right?
Yeah.
Apple leaning into the hacker community to work on security for its phone. And I think that's part of the reputation that Apple's trying to cultivate with making its OS more secure than Android, which is fragmented.
Right. Android has done this for a while because it's open and naturally there are more problems there, right? And so I think for a lot of security professionals, being able to dig into the iPhone has been really tough before because it's been locked down. So having an open version is a big step in the right direction. All right, AT&T has turned on its 5G network today in New York, but unlike other carriers, it still hasn't made it available to consumers. If 5G network is live, but we can't use it, does it really exist?
I'm still not exactly sure what AT&T is doing here because you've got, it is an interesting take to concentrate on the business, segment.
Yeah.
And in some senses, it makes sense because 5G is going to be expensive and right now it's limited. So who's going to bankroll that? They're thinking perhaps that regular consumers don't want to pay $1,300 for a device to not be able to use. That's frustrating. But perhaps the company IT department doesn't mind. It's maybe a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, it's only select business customers. And I get the sense that they're sort of like cozy business customers that have a good relationship with AT&T anyways and probably don't want to talk about the experience.
Got to get those testimonials.
There you go. Lastly, we've got our main story. The Galaxy Note 10 makes its debut tomorrow, but our own Jessica Dalcourt has a nice breakdown of how we got here. That original Note had a 5.3-inch display, which elicited a lot of gags because it was deemed super large and just ridiculous looking. Nowadays, we don't even blink an eye.
So just for the sake of comparison, the iPhone at that time had a 3.5-inch screen, which is like unbelievable by today's standards. And even then, this was 2011, by the way, even then, all of the customers were clamoring for a larger screen. But by larger, they meant 4 inches,
right?
Which was the size of the Galaxy S4. So then along comes a 5.3-inch screen, and it's not like today's. This is the Galaxy Note 9. It's not like today's phones where you've got these nice slim bezels,
right? And
the size of the screen doesn't necessarily mean that the phone is massive. It's large, but it's not like exponentially larger, right? And back then we had a lot of bezel. We had physical buttons, or maybe buttons sort of like below the screen, not necessarily integrated. There was just a lot of extra border. So to have a 5.3-inch screen meant that the phone was actually big, but it was no bigger than doing this. But we were just like, oh my God, look at that. It's like holding a brick.
We all took those photos,
a roof
like mocking
shingle
it.
up to your, right? And now, even though there's less of an emphasis on making calls with somebody, you do a lot of this, you do a little less of this.
Right.
Maybe you've got wireless earbuds, but you don't really stop when people do this, right? We've got toothbrushes coming out of people's ears with the iPods. Like nobody cares about that. But what's so interesting is that we did mock it, and I reviewed that phone. And I talked about the screen size, and I talked about the stylus, and I talked about how you know, it was great for multimedia, but nobody's going to really want to carry around a phone that big. It was just too big. And I was wrong. It kicked off a trend. Part of the reason is because Samsung's got the marketing clout to really sell those ideas, and they were also controlling the becoming exceedingly popular and increasingly popular Galaxy S line. So it was able to slowly nudge the screen size up on those devices while also selling the Note and then selling the benefits of that larger display. So I think that other manufacturers caught on, and that's how the trend really kicked off.
It feels like being in like a tub of water as the temperature keeps rising and rising. Like the screen gets larger and larger, and now we've got these kind of massive screens. And to Samsung's credit, they've done a good job of slimming the bezel down, making it fairly slim for the screen size. You get a lot of screen size for the body, but I still wonder if these phones are too big.
What we learned is that people can adapt, right? I've got smaller size hands, and I complain about, it's such a reach and this and that. And the thing is, you change how you use the device, and you change what your expectations are for it. And because we've got these faster speeds that let us do more on our phone, we rely on our phones for viewing, right? For playing games, for looking at the news, for on-demand communication, for on-demand video. So it's a little big. That's okay. I got to get my stuff. I got to spend time on my phone. I've got to be productive or entertained.
That is true. Although I have to say, I had a choice between an iPhone XS or a XS Plus. I chose the XS because I wanted to go back to a smaller phone. I feel like we've gone too far. Our hands just can't. Well, my hands are tiny as well, and I just can't handle the larger phones anymore.
And that's really what the Fold is about, right? Just to take it off in a completely different direction. What Samsung is doing, what it has done with the Galaxy Note line, and what it's doing with the Fold, which has that screen that bends in the middle, problematic screen, but this phone is now going on sale for real in September sometime. But all of that is in service to having as large a screen as you can on a device or a body that is still portable enough, right? And Samsung is banking once again that people would rather have the large screen space to do stuff on, to see stuff on, than they would something small that they can just fit into their back pocket or your little pocket on the front of your shirt.
Well, we'll see if Samsung's willing to bankroll that promotional effort around that, because it spent a lot of money pushing the Note and the Galaxy S line, so we'll see how the Fold fares. If you want to learn more about these stories, please check the links below or go ahead and start sending in your questions and comments about today's headlines. Thanks as always to everyone joining us here live. We stream weekday mornings at 11:15 a.m. Eastern on YouTube, Periscope, and CNET.com/dailycharge. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on Twitter while we grow this channel. All right, time to check in with the chat and take your questions, comments. Brian, what do the people want to know?
Taking a look at the chat, let's talk a little bit about security and privacy. Timothy wants to know, do you see a new wave of lawsuits or privacy issues when they put the camera into the S Pen? Someone may have, quote-unquote, forgotten to leave that on in a secret conference room or a call. What kind of detection features might be available, and should we be concerned about another easy-access spy device?
Interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that that's a rumor right now. That's something that we haven't confirmed. What we do know about the S Pen in the Note 9 is that it's Bluetooth connected. So right now you can use it kind of as a remote. So if you want to take a picture, you can click the button, take a picture. You can't really do a whole lot else with it. So I would say it would definitely be sort of a big leap if Samsung were to add a camera. Right now, I think they're just sort of using it to connect to the device.
Yeah, Brian, I don't know if you want to ask the commenter to clarify, because the idea of adding a camera to an S Pen, just physics alone makes it kind of unlikely, just because the camera modules tend to be pretty large. So maybe ask for some clarification.
It does have a battery in it now,
right?
Which does recharge when you go in the phone. I would say that, Samsung has and other manufacturers didn't have a lot of luck putting cameras in smartwatches. I would think this would be the last implementation we would see. Yeah,
I think they were burned by some of the mocking that they came with that original Galaxy Watch with the camera.
The quality is very poor. You can't really control it well. And I think what Samsung would probably rather do is focus on the cameras that come in the phone. This is their most premium device, apart from the Fold, apart from, 5G. But the Note represents the best of the best that they have to offer. I wouldn't think that Samsung would want to in any way appear to degrade that experience with a subpar, camera lens anywhere on the device.
Fair point. I think one of my most vivid memories is Scott Stein running by my office with the Galaxy Watch, or not the Galaxy Watch, the original
how
Samsung
fast
Watch.
Was he running?
I mean, he kind of scooted by, and then he took a photo with his watch of me. It just felt super creepy. But I still remember that. So thanks, Scott, for that lovely memory. Brian, what else do we got?
It goes without saying, but I'm going to start calling Scott Scooter. The next
Scott?
question, I'm calling him Scooter from here on out, and everyone else should too. I'm not even playing. CKT says, based on the 5G conspiracy theories I keep imagining, when the 5G network really fires up to the public, we're all going to end up looking like Jeff Goldblum at the end of the movie The Fly. I just can't help but make a Cronenberg reference because it's my absolute favorite thing of all time. Going back to Timothy's question, I think he's just kind of following the rumor mill. A lot of people are online just in pockets are chattering and chirping about the idea of putting a camera in the S Pen. We know that it's not guaranteed or anything promised there, but it seems like a possible move, not unlikely, but not absolutely likely either. I think he's just following the rumor mill there.
I would call it unlikely.
Yeah.
Based on the reasons that I just mentioned. That doesn't really seem like a progression for Samsung's moves. I think if they're going to do anything camera, I think they would maybe punch up the AR camera that we've seen on the Galaxy S10 5G. And really try to do something with that. I think people are wondering, where's Face Unlock? I don't think people are wondering, where's the camera in an S Pen?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think they're going to bulk up the camera in the device itself.
I just want to, where would it go? Because I already accidentally pressed this button too many times.
Well, to my point, if you look at an actual camera module, it won't actually fit into an S Pen right now. Like physically, I mean, I guess it theoretically could, but I don't know. It'd be difficult and really not practical.
It'd be a really crappy camera too.
Yeah, it would be a crappy camera.
So I just think, we don't know. Samsung could always surprise us, but I just don't see it happening.
Fair enough. You make a great point. I was just thinking, it's not physically impossible. The technology is considerable. It's possible. And again, rumor mill. That's what half the fun is here on the show. Ryan says, how big can these phones really go? Are we really finally at the max size with the S10 5G and Note 10?
No.
I'm sure it can go even bigger.
Well, let's look at foldable again, right? So we've got the screen on the inside of the Galaxy Fold that's 7.3 inches, and then you've got Huawei's foldable Mate X. Yep. I keep trying to say, I'm so trained with iPhone, I'm like, Mate X.
Yeah, I know.
It's the Mate X. And that's even larger, right? So not every foldable phone will have to have a large screen. This could become a foldable phone. What really matters,
like a clamshell.
Yeah, down.
Yep.
What really matters is the fact that the screen is uninterrupted. There's no hinge, there's no separation, and that it bends on itself. And the idea is to give you a larger surface area of uninterrupted screen that you can use. And we've been searching for, this is the whole point with the original Galaxy Note. So we've been searching for that tablet phone hybrid for a really long time. And these are, I think, two sides of the same coin. How do we maximize screen space while still giving you something that you can carry around? This laptop has pretty good screen space. This is, hello?
Hard to put in your pocket, too.
Hard to put in your pocket. And that's what people like about these devices. This is why they became popular, is because you can take them with you. They go with you wherever you go.
But is there, for taking foldables off the table, how big can these screens get before we sort of hit peak massive phone?
And I do think that's a fair question. If you're talking about in this form factor, which does not fold. Right.
A non-foldable phone.
Right. Because even if it's edge to edge, that is
there's still going to be physical limitations.
The screen.
Absolutely.
I do remember there was a phone, I believe it was a Sony phone that was, it was something like 6.7, 6.8 inches, and it was really big. But there were people who really liked it. There are some people who say this phone can never get big enough for me. It can never get too big. And maybe these are people with large hands and large pockets, right?
Yes.
For me, it can get too big because I'm sitting there trying to type and walk, and then I drop it.
And a one-handed thing is just one-handed navigation is really difficult.
Got your coffee in one hand, and you're walking down the street on your commute, and you're like, it's difficult.
One hand in my pocket and the other one folding a phone.
And I think that some people want the opposite. They want the return to the smaller phone and the smaller screen. Or maybe they'll do both, right? Maybe they've got their larger phone when they want it, and then maybe they kind of secretly wish that they had a little flip phone just for making calls. They should all
buy a Palm phone then.
Right.
No, just kidding. Yes, I do think, though, there are folks who want the idea of a smaller phone but packed with the latest features, right? It's not just Samsung, right? The trend is always bigger phone means all the bells and whistles. I think some folks want a smaller phone, but with the same bells and whistles.
In Korea, Samsung and LG have both in the past launched Android flip phones that have better cameras, that have updated versions of Android, but they're really for either, for the portability or for the aesthetic or for the nostalgia of having that. And you could really see sort of giving something like that to a younger person, or maybe even just like I could see, my grandma wanting something like that where she can do a few things that she needs to, but it's not overly complicated. Doesn't have to learn an entire operating system.
She could fold the clothes to put to sleep. That's kind of nice.
There you go, right? So there are certain benefits. Will we go back that way? I said that Samsung changed the phone industry forever by introducing the Note, and that's true. It doesn't mean that somebody won't change it back and we go in a different direction. Or, some people have even predicted the decline of the phone entirely, and you're using something else like a head-up display in your glasses or a chip implanted in your brain.
Well, phone sales are actually on the decline, so we're past the peak. So I think the industry is desperately looking for that next thing. As you said, maybe it's glasses, maybe everything's in our watch from now on.
Yeah, that's kind of stalled too, but it could be interesting to see what the next generation is going to be. It might not be a phone. It might be something else.
All right, Brian, what are the questions we got?
All I have to say is everything's a foldable phone if you believe in yourself. Ayaz wants to know if Samsung's going to make a push to develop pants with bigger pockets.
You know what? It's funny you joke about that because Samsung does have a line of clothes in Korea. There is a Galaxy line of suits.
The Galaxy suit.
Yeah. It's a pretty high-end suit,
I know Roger
too.
and I, our eyes just
we're like,
we know this.
Yes.
Me.
I've been in the stores. I've looked at the Samsung suits.
Well, did you buy one?
No, they're too expensive.
Are they connected?
They were not connected. That was, that was a couple of years ago. Maybe they are now.
Some high-tech material.
They all have Bluetooth on them. They're all Bluetooth enabled.
LED lights for really making an entrance.
Well, there's a little S Pen holder here. You
can buy one for Scooter Stein.
Oh my God, it's real.
Scooter Stein would look smashing in a Galaxy suit.
I did try once to change his name to Scotch Stein.
Ooh.
I liked it.
He doesn't drink scotch though.
Yeah. What a waste.
I know.
I can't seem to find the legit version, but I did find this Halloween costume.
That's pretty good.
Wow.
That's all that's coming up for Galaxy suit when I Google. So
I think if you can type in Korean, that'll help you.
I'll try looking.
It's totally it's a Korea only thing.
In the meantime, let's take another question while I start digging for absolute internet gold. Commander Trium says, has anyone been contacted by Capital One yet regarding last week's hack?
I have not. But then again, I wasn't applying for a credit card. I haven't done business with Capital One.
Right. We definitely have people following this. I have also not personally been involved.
Yep.
So I wish I had a better question. Well, I wish I had a better answer to the question on that one.
But we do have guides on CNET on what to do if you have been affected, so definitely check us out there.
And also how to protect yourself from scams. There are a lot of scamming sites out there. So there's some guidance from Capital One on how to avoid them. Also from the FCC for the Equifax data breach, avoiding people who are just trying to prey on your vulnerability by trying to elicit even more information out of you in a way that could further compromise, your already precarious situation. So don't give people your credit card information online, first of all.
Or any information generally.
Any information.
Yeah. Don't
Did
trust
I say
anybody.
online? I meant over the phone, especially. But also online, just be careful out there.
Yeah.
Don't click links.
Just be paranoid. That's what we are.
Enter the URL yourself.
Talking 5G, when we say 5G in New York, we're specifying Manhattan, correct?
You know what? It's not 100% clear because the networks are... AT&T hasn't really disclosed where the actual networks are within the city, so they could be in Brooklyn or Queens. We don't actually know. And from what I understand, it's really just what's known as millimeter wave 5G spectrum... Millimeter wave spectrum powered 5G. So this is sort of like that super fast connection, but really limited range. So you're looking at like a block of coverage.
Yeah. So we've done 5G tests all over the world now, the broader CNET team.
Yep.
I've done a couple myself, and I did them with Verizon in Chicago. And it's really just like an intersection here, an intersection there. It's really patchy. And the idea is let's plant the flag now, and then we can kind of grow around it and create this sort of like central area that has this really super fast form of 5G, and then the next band out will have a different kind of 5G that's got longer waves.
It's a little bit slower, but still faster than 4G.
Still really fast, right?
Yeah.
And then, another sort of area of the target that's got maybe
Even
the
wider.
fastest kind of 4G, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, the days where we all have the fastest possible 5G wherever we go, those aren't here yet.
Yeah, and from what I gather, they're still looking to launch sort of that broader spectrum of 5G that's not quite as fast as what we're getting right now, but better coverage. And that's probably when we'll see it launch for consumers. AT&T still says that they do intend to launch the service this year. Just we don't know when.
Well, it could also be an AT&T tactic because when you look at these phones and the chips that they have in them already.
Yeah.
So the S10 5G has this 5G chip, obviously, but it's really tuned to each individual carrier. So you can't take it to a different carrier. And you can't even use other spectrum if they
it's
acquire
really
it.
tuned. Right now, it's only able to tap into that millimeter wave spectrum we've been talking about that's really limited, as well as the Sprint spectrum.
LG, that's a different.
Right. But once these lower band spectrum get turned on, these phones that are out in the market now won't be able to tap into those networks. So they're not really future-proof devices.
No, they're not great. We wouldn't really
They're pretty much
recommend
the opposite
it at
of
this point.
future-proof devices.
Right, and so Qualcomm's already working on future chips to make these phones thinner, lighter, just more battery efficient, and also able to tap into future networks.
Yeah.
But it still might be the third generation. I just have a feeling that's going to be the generation. I think prices might come down. There might be more variety. And more importantly, I think the 5G experience could be better. Of course, we haven't tested any of this. This is just a hypothesis at this point. But it's in that vein, it's interesting what OnePlus is doing with the 5G phone. These companies are still putting it out there. So at the end of the day, it might be that AT&T's strategy winds up being the best, where they wait and then introduce sort of like a better 5G phone to consumers.
Right. With a service that's a lot broader than really what's available right now.
And with OnePlus, I wonder, it just seems like they're trying to get on the board. Like, aha, we're finally in the US. We have a partner.
Right.
Let's expand.
OnePlus obviously already works with T-Mobile. I think it's interesting that their new partner is Sprint, given that T-Mobile and Sprint are going to get together. That's probably why they're going with Sprint, since generally, if you go with Sprint as your exclusive partner, you're almost not guaranteed for failure, but it's tough to succeed with just Sprint as your carrier. But if you've got T-Mobile backing in a few months
traditionally OnePlus would never even go on Sprint because of the different networks.
Right, that's true.
So OnePlus is GSM. So
having to create an entirely
that doesn't matter
different...
as much anymore, but they would still you can't buy a phone that works on AT&T and T-Mobile and expect for it to work on Verizon and Sprint. There's a lot that these carriers do to optimize and lock down phones for their network.
Although with the OnePlus 6T last year, I believe that one was certified for Verizon. That was the first time they certified. It wasn't officially certified.
Certification
but it could
is different.
It could run on Verizon's network.
Okay, kind of like the way that OnePlus is certified waterproof, even though they haven't done the tests. A lot of this is testing.
It's not. No, they've already said it's not certified waterproof at all. So.
It's paying for the tests as well. It's paying for that certification. So there are cheaper ways that you can do it. Sprint has a certification program also that is separate than going through their long, involved, and very expensive tests.
Right, but from what I understand,
the partnership is the reason why they're doing this.
Yeah, but from what I understand, what's happening with this partnership is OnePlus going through the full certification program with Sprint, whereas with Verizon, to your point, it was certified for the network, but not certified to the level of officially sold by Verizon. It was more it'll work on Verizon's network, kind of mostly. So, all right, Brian, any other questions?
Yeah, first, before we got a couple more questions, we should really try to get through these. We're going long today, and
that's my fault.
Yeah,
no, we started late too, so there's
it's true. But first, I found the suit. Samsung Smart Suit Solar Bag and Golf Shirt.
Snappy.
I mean, it looks nice.
Looks like a Jonas brother.
Does he? I feel like the Jonas Brothers don't wear suits, right?
Probably
we're
not.
trying to get through questions here.
Sorry, let's go to.
So yeah,
let's get to some questions.
To get to some real questions, Timothy asked, do you see Google and Apple's network security team attending Black Hat and DEFCON to try to offer them jobs?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I imagine Partly why Apple is there is to reach out to the security community, the hacker community, to see, like, to basically utilize their skills to figure out their vulnerabilities in their system. As for Google, I don't know if they're even there. Unfortunately, Alfred would know the answer, but he's traveling.
Do we know what he's actually up to on the floor out there?
Alfred is?
What's he going to be
He's got his
looking
Nintendo
at?
Switch.
Yeah, he's got his Switch, so he's going to be challenging people to Smash, apparently.
That's perfect.
No, he's going to be hanging out with hackers. He's got a lot of stories planned out. But we do believe that Apple is going to be there, and if the Forbes report is right, he'll be there to cover that as well. So there's plenty going on the security front, and Alfred will be on top of all of it.
I'm concerned about him coming back and being an expert hacker and like ruining all of our lives. Okay, CKT says if Google is adding or copying Apple with their Google Play $5 memberships, do you think Google will also make a credit card?
Right. Ben looked into this.
Yep.
So Apple's Play is interesting because you can only use Apple Card on the iPhone. This reinforces Apple's desire to maintain its walled garden and its ecosystem. That's not philosophically what Android and Google are about. So for that reason alone, I would say probably not, or at least not yet.
Right. So there you go. They do have, I mean, Android. There's Android Pay, but it's really not what Apple's trying to do here. To your point, like, Apple's really just trying to lock you in. And I'm not entirely sure if like it's the best credit card to use from a cashback perspective, but that's just me.
I mean, how many Apple products do you want to buy?
Yeah.
So the Apple Cash really only works for Apple things and the Apple ecosystem. And maybe that's fine if you want to buy an app or some music or put it toward, a future device. But Google just doesn't really have that yet.
Yeah.
I mean, you for sure have the home devices. But I sort of feel like Google's interest is really with the software side of things. It's with AI. It's with search. Back to AI again with Assistant, right? That's what Google is trying to push. It wants to get everywhere. It doesn't necessarily want to lock you in. It wants to spread itself out.
Right. That said, I don't know, maybe the Apple Card becomes a smash hit and like every other company just decides to do it too, because
we've seen it happen
it's
before.
the thing to do.
Well, Apple invented credit cards,
That's right. Yeah. Any last questions, Brian?
Courage. If the folding phone is back, when will the sliding phone make a comeback?
Ooh, sliding phones.
I miss those.
I miss those too. Nice.
See, these phones are all right, but like I think the reason that I like the S Pen, I think the reason we like sliding and folding things is
fidget
because
aspect
they're
to it.
tactile.
Yeah.
Fidget spinner phone.
You really connect with it in a physical way. That's really different. And that's what I noticed with the Fold. I'd seen it, I'd seen the pictures, I'd seen the videos, but the first time that I actually, like, Samsung made this like amazing experience with a light box and everything and take the lid off and yes, you can pick it up. And I picked it up and the first thing I did was and it feels different. Like you have this different connection that sounds really esoteric,
right.
Possibly a little new agey tree huggery, but it's so true. When you get it in your hands and you open it and you close it and you feel the magnets clacking together.
Right.
And you did the same with the Huawei Mate X.
Yeah.
And what did you think? Do you agree?
Yeah, it was just the niftiness of it. The screen, there was just something. It wasn't just tactile. That was a big part of it, but like the visual of seeing it kind of fold in on itself and like not break, because the first time you do it you're like, is this gonna snap or something, and then it works, and then it just works, and it
$2,000 slap bracelet.
Slap bracelet phone.
Absolutely. Something we've seen in prototype before from Lenovo several years ago. They called it the C+. You could never slap it. It was more like put it there and then like I
like it, Brian, though. Snap bracelet phones for your wrists.
All right, final thoughts on 5G. With the network coming, and obviously we said it's not available to the public yet, obviously speed is a big boost, but any other features or perks or extras that we see coming hand in hand with a 5G network that, at least here in New York?
Well, here in New York, I mean, the benefits are going to be the same everywhere. I don't think it's going to be unique to New York, but like latency is obviously the biggest other benefit of 5G.
Which means...
Latency is the responsiveness of a network when you push a button or you go in the browser, like the time it takes for the phone to ping the network and get a response back gets dropped down to 0.1 milliseconds or something. So basically,
in theory, yes.
In theory. So like the idea is it's as near real time as possible. And that's really good for things like remote surgery, when you need precise controls, cars that are talking to each other, and being able to kind of get out of each other's way. That I think that's actually, frankly, that's probably the bigger benefit of 5G. Really, speed's great, and that's always nice. But the responsiveness of the network really changes how we can do things wirelessly.
Yeah, I think that's something we're not going to see. Like, ordinary people aren't really going to see it, and we're not going to see any of this for a long time because the networks just aren't there yet.
Right.
First of all, and because these are expensive, they're massive undertakings that companies and entire industries have to prepare for. And so that's what the carriers are trying to do now. It will be a huge, huge revenue stream for them as well. But assuming it all works to plan, the benefits to ordinary people could be huge. We just might not see them right away. So it is really futuristic with self-driving cars. I mean, those are happening. We see them on the road, but in test form, right? But the idea is that you're going to have all of these devices and these lights, the whole infrastructure talking to each other so that things will become more efficient. If there's a problem, you'll get pinged immediately. You'll be able to get there. I think that we'll see this kind of thing happen first for industries and infrastructures that already use 4G. So for example, first responders, there are some first responding precincts, I don't know if that's even the right term, that use 4G to run their distribution or dispatch. That's what it's called.
Absolutely,
to
yeah.
run dispatch. So imagine that they've got 5G. You can just maybe get through the queue a little bit faster. You can respond. You can get the inputs and hopefully save more lives.
I mean, the firefighters in California, that was the whole deal, right? They were using Verizon's 4G network to communicate, and then they got throttled by Verizon. That was the whole controversy there. But the idea being, to your point, like Verizon, AT&T, all these guys, they provide a lot of the network, the critical network infrastructure for a lot of these first responders to communicate, to coordinate, to do all this stuff. And it goes beyond just dispatch. Like it's using the data to actually figure out where to fight the fires, where to respond to crime scenes. So yeah, there's going to be a lot. 5G is not just about phone speeds. It's so much more. That's why I'm super excited about it and love talking about it, even though Brian hates me talking about it.
Because it's not a visual medium and I can't get B-roll for it.
Sorry, man.
But we are out of time. We have to wrap up. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Sorry again about the technical issues at the top of the show. Appreciate your patience. Won't happen again, I promise. God is my witness. God rest his soul. Yada, 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 yada. But we're out of here. Thanks, everybody. Roger.
Yeah, that's not true. He's totally going to make another mistake. Thank you again for joining us. Tag us online and let us know what you want to see on the show. For the Daily Charge, I'm Roger Chang.
And I'm Jessica Dalcourt.
Thanks for listening and watching.